So produce safety and regulations. So I know probably from some of the education Dr. Fong has done with you guys before, you've heard about the Food Safety Modernization Act. But before that law came in place, as far as produce safety goes, the term we heard a lot was good agricultural practices, or GAPs. So what are GAPs? GAPs are an audit that are voluntary to verify that fresh fruit and vegetables are produced, packed, handled, and stored to minimize the risk of microbial food safety hazards. GAPS audits are verified to adhere to the recommendations made by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration Guide to Minimize Microbial Food Safety Hazards for Fresh Produce and Vegetables and Industry, and it recognizes specific food safety practices. Although the shift has gone to produce safety rules with compliance to FSMA, there are some operations that are still doing gap audits. I think the term harmonized gap has come out a lot, especially with FSMA. I know we have a colleague on our Safe Produce team here that is doing that type of work. So as far as FSMA, Food Safety Modernization Act, and the Produce Safety Rule, the Produce Safety Rule was developed to establish science-based minimum standards for safe growing, harvesting, packing, and holding of fruits and vegetables grown for human consumption. The rule is a part of the Food and Drug Administration ongoing implementation of the FSMA. And the final rule went through in effect on January 26, 2016. So in conversations with Dr. Fong, she said, this group may be exempt from some FSMA rules. And so this presentation will focus on exempt operations. So when Autumn approached me about giving this talk, I did a quick search on Google Scholar about record keeping, produce, and food safety. And I found a lot of history as it comes to record keeping and foods and produce safety. So going back to GAPs. So in a paper that was published in 2002, the researchers surveyed New York fruit and vegetable growers to compare their management practices related to manure, compost, and on-farm water quality with federal guidelines to reduce food safety risk. Reminder, so connecting us back again, back in 2002, GAPS was the standard practice. So the results showed that there was a general need for food safety training that emphasized the past outbreaks associated with produce, and also covering manure management practices to reduce risk so that the growers can be more accurate in their reporting on on-farm efforts. And have record keeping of manure and water management and traceback purposes. So small farms, they said specifically, they wanted to do additional training in 3 key areas of record keeping of manure application, composting process to actively kill pathogen, and wash water sanitation. So if y'all have had some training or had some discussion about FSMA, these were some key facts that came up during that passing of that rule as well. So the talks started way back before FSMA came into effect. So looking at a document that was published in, I think it was Hort Science, they discussed how pathogen outbreaks associated with fresh produce and buyers requiring hazard analysis critical control point, or HACCP, were a good thing to consider to ensure that food safety practices for growing, harvesting, and post-harvest handling and transportation of produce was a good thing to focus on. So this was back in 2001 when this was published. So going back again, that this is when GAPS was going on. Also, when they talked about the future of produce safety and food safety, they also mentioned cider operations because they had started seeing some outbreaks that were occurring with E. coli in ciders. And they also mentioned the FDA was considering requirements for alfalfa sprouts, alfalfa beans, and radish sprouts, and looking into adopting HACCP. And so the publication also mentioned that there was to be a module plan for module HACCP plan for fresh cut produce is something that they highlighted in that paper. And then, so this is just kind of showing you that before there was the Food Safety Modernization Act, that the conversation of produce safety was coming up, and that there were many options that they started considering way before the rule came into place.